Cooking for others can be fraught with dangers, especially if you don't know how to keep your food safe. This is where we use a HACCP plan. This is Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. This is a systematic preventative approach to food safety. HACCP plans can be very hard to imagine. They tend to be very complicated designs, and so now we're going to try and bring it to life whilst we make chicken Alfredo with grilled broccoli. Where do we get started? The same place we always do in the kitchen. We wash our hands. We must make sure we wash our hands correctly, so using soap, lathering up and scrubbing our fingers, rinsing really well, using a paper towel to dry our hands, and then turning the tap off with that same paper towel so we don't recontaminate our hands. Now we're ready to take delivery of our products from approved reputable suppliers and place them on our receiving table. We will use our receiving table to check for things like the quality, the color, the look and feel of our products. We'll check the dates to make sure that they're all clear and correct. We'll weigh for the quantity to make sure that they're accurate. We'll take the temperature of our foods as well. Sometimes if you have vacuum packed foods, you'll have to place the thermometer in between. With others, we can use the temperature probe actually into the food itself to make sure that they are outside of the temperature danger zone. It's now time to choose where in the refrigerator we store our poultry, and it's always down at the bottom. If you're going to store products which are ready to eat, they will go at the very top so that they're safe, and then following through with fish, then cuts of beef, pork and lamb, followed by ground meats, and always at the bottom with poultry. The next step in our HACCP plan is to bring our chicken out ready for preparation. Never be tempted to bring too much out at one time, otherwise we risk having our chicken in the temperature danger zone, and this is time and temperature abuse. And as we know with our FAT-TOM acronym, we don't want to feed into the opportunity for bacterial growth. To aid us in keeping our finished chicken chilled, we have a hotel pan with ice and some large Ziploc bags where we can place the completed chicken pieces straight onto our ice. As we fabricate our chicken, we start off by snipping the skin right between the thigh and the breast, and we pull that back to release the socket right at the thigh, and we pull that off nice and cleanly whilst getting the nice eye of meat that we get, the oyster, right in that area, repeating it on both sides. Take care not to damage the breast meat whilst removing the legs and thighs, as it's much more valuable intact. When removing the wings, always hold the wings out so that you can see the muscle definition as it joins onto the main carcass. Makes it a lot easier to be able to find that joint. Pressing down firmly at the center of the breast at this point can help to stabilize the bird. Now running the knife just off center to avoid the cartilage, run it down to where you feel it hitting on the ribs, and then moving off to the side to remove all the breast meat, leaving very little on the carcass. For more successful and even browning when we make stock, we'll go ahead and cut that carcass in half. Just some minor trimming of skin is all that we need for the chicken breast right now, and that can be placed on ice. To separate the legs and thighs, it's very simple. Look for the line of fat and slice right in between the joint on the leg side of that fat line. With our wings, start with the tips. Make sure you have it over on the inside so that you can see exactly where the joints are. you should be able to slice in between the ball joints, feeling as you go if you can't find them at first. The remaining pieces of chicken can now go on ice in those bags, and let's go ahead and label those bags and write the date so we can keep track of all of these items. Moving on to another piece of our mise en place, now onto our broccoli. All produce needs to be thoroughly washed under cool running water. We'll go ahead and trim these into nice individual florets, always slicing the stem from underneath so that way we don't end up with any sharp flat edges. We want to maintain its natural beauty. We want to set that glorious dark green color in our broccoli, so we're going to take a pot of boiling water, add a generous amount of salt, and drop in our broccoli just for about 1 to 2 minutes. We now stop the cooking process immediately by dropping the broccoli into iced water. We're ready now to parboil our pasta. Take a look at the instructions on the front of the particular pasta you're going to use. This one says 10 to 12 minutes. We're going to go ahead and place it in a large amount of salted water and boil that for about 9 minutes. Once it reaches the al dente point, where it still has just a slight bite, we drain that off and we're going to place that into iced water to again stop the cooking process. We're going to use the chicken thighs for this recipe, so we've deboned those, and now we're going to season them with salt and pepper on all sides, and we're going to add a little oil all around. It's a high smoke point oil, something like canola will work nicely. The same process again with our broccoli, a little oil and some salt and pepper. We have all of our mise en place together for our sauce. All we need to do is prep our garlic. We just need 1 clove from this bulb. How do we separate this out? Place it down on the board and press firmly. To remove the garlic skin, or the paper as we sometimes know it as, take the widest part of a chef knife and press firmly down to crack the clove. Then the skin will remove easily, and now we can use our claw grip whilst rocking the knife blade to be able to slice the garlic down nice and finely. You can then go ahead and alter your hold by firmly holding with 2 fingers at the tip of the blade and rocking back and forth to dice the garlic up small. To take the process 1 step further and mince the garlic, we sprinkle a little salt, and then we use the side of the edge of the blade to crush down and to start opening up the oils and flavors and juices from the garlic. At this point, we are now ready, just like a regular restaurant would be, for that first order of chicken Alfredo. The order comes in, we pull our ingredients out of the refrigerator while we've been keeping them out of the temperature danger zone. First of all, to make our sauce, we drop our butter into the pan. We don't want to brown it or burn it, we just want to gently melt it. Whilst that's starting to melt down, we're going to go ahead and add our minced garlic in, just to allow the flavors to infuse, but not to burn that garlic, otherwise it will get bitter. When adding the cream, go ahead and keep stirring. As it starts to warm through, it will emulsify all the fat from the butter into an amalgamated sauce. Reduce the heat and let's add the Parmesan cheese and stirring that in until it starts to melt into the sauce. Correct the seasoning with a little salt and pepper, and our Alfredo sauce is ready to go. It's time now to go ahead and place our chicken thighs onto the griddle, As you place them down, they're coated in oil and they have the seasoning of salt and pepper we put on earlier. Do not be tempted to try and turn them too early. Give them enough time so that we get some good marks on them and they release from the griddle without any sticking. We've reduced the temperature down on the chicken side now, and over on the opposite side of the griddle we're placing that oiled and salt and peppered broccoli. We're going to allow that some time to sear so that we get some nice charring going on. At the same time, let's go ahead and check the temperature of our chicken. It must hit at least 165. As long as my chicken has hit at least 165 Fahrenheit at its core internal temperature, it's now safe to allow it to rest. And while that chicken's resting, perfect timing, we can go and add the pasta into the sauce. That will allow that to start reheating. If the sauce is now a little too thick, use just a drop of that pasta water to thin it out to exactly the right consistency you need. Notice the hand that comes in contact with this cooked chicken is gloved. Ready to eat foods must never come into contact with your skin. Spoons, tongs, gloves are all perfectly acceptable, but never a bare hand on ready to eat foods. We're ready now to go ahead and plate up our food. We're going to have the base of our pasta with the Alfredo sauce. We'll place the chicken on top, making sure obviously to have a gloved hand or tongs or spoons, and then we'll add the broccoli on and we'll give a little sprinkle of our Parmesan cheese. It's now finishing our responsibility in the kitchen by making sure that we pass that food on to the service team at the right temperature. It must remain above 135. We never let our food go down into the temperature danger zone. We're looking good, ready for service. Make sure they've got their hands washed and ready to serve our customers. With all that care and attention we've put in so far, don't let that last hand be the hand that touches our ready-to-eat foods. Well done. Give yourself a pat on the back. We've just served some safe and tasty food. Hang on a minute. We're not quite done yet. Remember, we've still got to do the dishes and pots and pans. Make sure your dishwasher has sufficient sanitizer and detergent and it's working at the correct temperature and pressures. With your 3-pot sink, always make sure to measure your chemicals accurately or make sure that your dispenser is correctly working. Your first sink has detergent with water at least 110 Fahrenheit. The second sink is just water for rinsing and must be again at least 110 Fahrenheit. The third sink has your sanitizer. Your sanitizer, you need to read the label, but generally is a warm water to cold water, unless if you are sanitizing with heat, in which case it must be maintained at least 171 degrees Fahrenheit. When using chemical sanitizers, always check their effectiveness using the appropriate type of test strips and comparing on the chart to make sure that it's being effective. With heat, always make sure it hits at least 171 Fahrenheit. We're ready to use our 3-pot sink, scraping off any residual food waste into the trash first, then going into the first sink where we have our detergent that's going to get rid of the grime and grease, the second sink which is going to rinse off any of that detergent and any remaining little bits of oil, and then into our third sink where we're making sure that that sanitizer has enough contact time on the equipment. In terms of our quat sanitizer that we're using here, that means about 30 seconds. And now let the equipment air dry to maximize our contact time with the sanitizer. And how about our work tables? You've guessed it, it's exactly the same process. First of all, we scrape off any residual matter into the trash can, and then using our detergent, With our hot water, we're cleaning our table. We then rinse off with hot, clean water, and then we sanitize with the same parts per million as we would when we're using our 3-pot sink. We allow the table to air dry to maximize the contact time with our sanitizer. Excellent job. Using your HACCP plan, you just produced tasty and safe food.